We're back in Lisbon. We've been here before. We've done 2 films on it. We walked around the town. We've been to the palace at Queluz on the train. Today, we're going to try out a beach. Please do subscribe and watch our films. It's free.
The metro service, the tram and the ferry boats are all excellent in Lisbon. There are 2 main railway stations. One is the one we're going to today, which is over by the Time Out building, right along the coast if you turn left from the ship.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Both stations have ticket offices and automated machines where you can buy your tickets. At the other one, the other station, is north up through the town, 2 squares up. And that will take you to the palaces, which we'll talk about later. First, we're off to the beach and we're getting the train from the coastal railway station.
We've just taken the train all the way along the coast to Cascais. It was a lovely journey and now we're going to explore the beach. We're outside the station. I've taken a picture of the timetable so we know we're going to be okay to get the ship. We know what time we can come back. If you come up to the station, there's a roundabout in front of you. If you turn left, there's a big touristy beach. If you go straight ahead, there's another beach. But if you turn right, there's a fisherman's beach with a castle and we're going to start there.
Castles and palaces are not perhaps something you would normally associate with Lisbon because you initially go to the hills, the trams. But they have both. And of course, they had an empire. And they even ran Brazil.
This tile-covered building dates back to the 1700s. It's the town museum and also the town hall, and it gives a history of the town. It's right by the sea.
The museum is free, and it's worth a look, especially if you want to get out of the sun for a moment. It is very close to the castle, which is just a short walk up the hill.
We're going to explore all the beaches, but this is good because you get a view of all of them in one go.
The Cascais Fort has been around since the 15th century, and it's guarded the western end of the Tagus estuary and the minor fishing harbour of Cascais.
This is a statue of King Carlos I. He was born in 1863 and unfortunately assassinated on February the 1st in 1908.
Like so many historic places, it has a pretty dark past. In 1580, when Portugal's King Sebastião died with no heir, Spanish troops invaded Cascais in an attempt to reach Lisbon. They beheaded at least 4 Portuguese soldiers and hung them from the citadel. Now, I don't know how they hung them, if they cut their heads off, but that's what history says.
Great view of the fortress, looking out over the marina.
We have very efficiently got here so early that many of the restaurants that open for their lunch trade are not yet open for coffee. But we're going to walk along now, 3 beaches, and we'll see them all. This wonderful building that sits in the middle of the beaches is the Ministry of Defence's building, which is for the captain of the port. I can confirm I did test the water, but the temperature was pretty cold. Early summer in the Med, a bit cold for me. So early, this pina colada stall wasn't even working, which was a bit of a shame. And here is a bar which has a big sign up saying, "We don't sell coffee." Fair enough. So these are the beaches at Cascais. And we probably headed back a little too early. We could have stayed longer. But it's better to be safe than sorry. On the way back, just remember there are a few things you can see. You could even get off at one of the stations before Lisbon and walk back into town. And there by the bridge is the Redeemer statue, which connects Lisbon to Brazil to Queluz. And the Redeemer statue is probably best seen leaving Lisbon on your ship. Lisbon has 2 iconic bridges which span the Tagus River. First, the Ponte Vasco da Gama, which is one of the longest bridges in Europe. But this is the famous red suspension bridge, which is known as the Pont de 25th of April, the bridge of the 25th of April. And there's probably a party going on deck, so it becomes quite an evening. Now, the story of this Redeemer statue. The statue is actually about the redemption of the slaves. It's all about the end of slavery. And originally, it was never meant to be a statue of Christ. It was a Redeemer statue. So, let's go to Queluz and have the whole story. But first, let's go to Brazil and see the real statue.
This is the famous Copacabana beach. A new tram is an easy way to get around. It's just across the road from the port, and good news, senior citizens travel free. We're on the escalator for the final leg. So we're 700 metres above sea level, and that is another 30 metres high. So this is where they hold the carnival in February. When the samba schools come and audition, they have to audition here. I've got a caipirinha, and it's a lemon flavour, which was the original. Cheers! We're 395 metres high. The Sugarloaf Complex is the country's biggest and most traditional climbing centre. The cathedral is ugly on the outside, but inside there's beautiful stained glass windows, and it has standing room for 20,000 people. This work of art began in 1990 as a personal tribute to the people of Brazil, a constantly changing work of art. We're in the Museum of the Imagination, which is right by the ship. Free entry if you're over 65. There's not a lot of English translation here, but the pictures are pretty self-explanatory.
So the story of the Redeemer statue comes from Lisbon. It comes from Queluz, the Palace of Queluz. So let's go and find it. The Rosio Station is on your left-hand side, and this is the best one to go from.
The station is in the square where the shuttle bus often drops you off.
This is another day out you can easily do from Lisbon.
Wow.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Another train journey, just 30 minutes.
So I bought 2 tickets for Queluz, and he knew what I was talking about. So that was an easy journey, 18 minutes it took. After you come through the ticket barrier, you turn right and take that exit. Come down the escalator and you'll see a signpost for the palace. This way.
You know, there are lots and lots of palaces in Lisbon. You could almost have an adventure looking for palaces.
Follow the signs.
But this is the one where the story of the Redeemer comes from.
So we've arrived at the palace. It's just one straight road down, and it's an 18-minute walk after the 18 minutes on the train. Not far.
As a serious tip, use the ticket machine because the human ticket version is very slow, even though there are 3 or 4 of them. So the real story of the Redeemer statue in Rio in Brazil and here in Lisbon starts back in 1807 as Napoleon's French army invaded Portugal. The Portuguese royal court fled across the Atlantic under British escort, and they relocated the entire capital of Portuguese Empire in Rio de Janeiro. That meant leaving this wonderful palace behind. The daughter of the Emperor Pedro II was Isabella. She was the Princess Imperial, meaning she was the next in line to rule the Empire of Brazil. And she stood against slavery, and monarchists and Catholic conservatives saw her as the future protector of the monarchy and faith.
The throne room, also known as the Great Room, was designed by French artist Jean-Baptiste de Robillon and dates back to 1774. It's Rococo style.
So the monument was meant to honour her, the symbolic defender of Catholic Brazil. After the abolition of slavery, when Isabella herself signed the Golden Law which abolished slavery in Brazil, that was May the 3rd, 1888, many people began calling her the Redeemer.
The historical organ in the Royal Chapel represents one of the greatest feats in Portuguese organ making.
And it made her famous all across Brazil. supporters calling her the Redeemer, the Redentora. So the Redemptress statue was the idea of grateful citizens and the Venetian priest, Father Pedro Maria Bos, who wanted to honour her noble act. Now here is the irony that by ending slavery, although it made her famous, beloved, and everybody wanting to honour her, it angered the powerful slave-owning elites. And it weakened the support of the monarchy, and the Brazilian Empire fell the very next year, in 1889. So the statue idea to honour her was shelved. It was revived in the 1920s by the Catholic Church and changed to be the statue of Christ the Redeemer, not that of Princess Isabella. And the claim is that Princess Isabella did not want the monument to be about her. She preferred it to be Christ the Redeemer of mankind.
It looks like the restoration work is absolutely non-stop. This is one of the bedrooms. This one belonged to Jose. This room was built between 1754 and 1762. It's the Room of Columns, the evening music room. The ceiling in the ambassador's room is one of the most unique works of art. It depicts the royal family attending a music session. This painting is a copy, and if you look at the character dressed in black, you will see he is wearing a pair of 20th century glasses, and no one knows why. It was here that Queen Maria's ladies-in-waiting gathered. This final phase of decoration in 1767, according to a document, refers to a payment for a carpenter fixing the roses to the ceiling. Its composition, blah, blah, blah. This room has paintings depicting La Mancha and Don Quixote around the room.
There are many palaces around Lisbon, and I'm sure we'll get to visit a few more. The music over this palace of Queluz is by Mark Blackledge.
And this room was used as a dressing room. The audio guide is an app on your phone, and there's a QR code to take you on a quest around the garden. Nowadays, everything is worked off your phone. Not to be missed, the tiled ceramic canal. It's decorated with 18th century scenes, and the royal family often used to take a boat down here on sunny afternoons to enjoy themselves. The palace is often referred to as the Portuguese Versailles. In 1908, it became the property of the state, and was extensively restored in 1934 following a serious fire, which gutted a third of its interior. Most of the paintings are copies. One of the most impressive walkways in these beautiful gardens is Bosquet Grove with this stunning view. Many of the trees here were brought in from the Netherlands in the 1750s. The palace is one of the last great Rococo buildings to be designed in Europe. Surrounded by beautiful lakes and fountains and lead statues depicting mythological scenes, the palace combines Baroque, Rococo and neoclassical architecture designs, and the gardens are inspired by French styles. Many of the statues in the gardens were imported from Italy, but these lead statues were commissioned by John Cheer, the British sculptor. Some more of John Cheer's work, and there's Neptune, god of the sea. The Palace of Queluz was a summer retreat for Don Pedro of Braganza. He later married his own niece, Queen Maria I, and so became king consort. After he died in 1786, Queen Maria descended into madness and was incarcerated here. Her madness worsened after the death of her son from smallpox in 1786. The palace became the official residence of Prince Regent John VI in 1794.
And if you happen to read one of my cruise novels, there are 10 in the series, please do leave a review on Amazon. Cruise Ship Heist has been #1 3 times in 2 different countries. Enjoy your cruising.